Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about The Mutants by Bob Baker and David Martin, directed by Christopher Barry. This is a 6-part adventure, and it is one of the most gorgeous looking, just full of stuff, and one of the most boring Doctor Who stories in the show's history. Yeah, it's not really considered highly, and though I don't agree with most people's points, I can see why it gets overlooked a lot. It's a 6-part. It's 6 parts long, and it deals with the Doctor and Jo Grant getting another assignment by the Time Lords, making this, I believe, the 4th story in the row that does not feature UNIT in any way, shape or form. And the Doctor has to send a kind of block to someone. The Time Lords have made this device where it will only work, it will only open for someone, and the Doctor's basically a delivery boy. And the Doctor and Jo go to this base that's orbiting a planet, and it's at the human empire time, where in the distant future humans have become like the dominant race in the galaxy. But now it's coming up, but basically it's at the end of that era. It's like basically the fall of the human empire. And whilst this is going on, the Marshal is trying to keep in power of this planet that he's been using experiments on. However, the organization is basically letting this planet have its independence, and though these people are savages, they're getting their independence, and there's this whole political angle about independence and like control and the British Empire. Basically, it has a lot of political theme in, and I think it does work. It works very well. But the big problem with the Mutants is that there is so much going on. It all just kind of blurs in your mind, and you don't really understand what's going on for the most part. It starts off simple enough. These people, they're basically like Aztec warriors, and a group of them is fine with the humans, and another group, or like, should I say one guy, he says he's a group, but there's only one person really that we see, wants their independence, and they kind of hate the humans, which they call the overlords. And the reason why they hate them is because they've been experimenting on this planet to try and make it breathable for humans, which it hasn't happened yet. And these experiments seem to be causing mutations where it turns the people of this planet Solos into these bug-like creatures, which you can see on the cover. And that bit sounds fair enough. It sounds like a great plot, a great plan, in terms of making a story. And the Doctor, but then we got the Doctor who's got this device that's got to find it to someone. It turns out to be the guy that one of the Solos's citizens that want to be independent. We get this whole thing about the scientists trying to convert it into humans, and they're trying to get the Doctor to work with the scientists to try and make the planet habitable, which, okay, is a great plan. Then we also get a assassination of the person that wants these people to have their independence. One of the human characters gets assassinated by the son of the leader of the Solos individuals that want the humans to basically stay there. And then we get then it turns out that he was actually run by the Marshal, who's trying to keep the power to himself. And then the whole base, the whole planet goes under martial law. And it's just so much going on. There's way too much going on. It all just blends into your head. And there's also spoilers by the way. This I would consider a spoiler. So, spoiler. We find out that inside the box that the Doctor's holding has these tablets with information about it. And the Doctor has to meet up with this scientist guy that went missing. And he was on the planet studying the Solos people. But then I think he went mad or something. And so he basically went into exile. And there's also this thing about a room in the caves that has radiation, and Joe faints from it, and yeah. But anyway, it turns out that this planet has like a cycle. It's like, I think it's 150 years of winter and then summer. And when this planet goes into summer, it turns out that these species, they go through a hibernation where they turn into these bug creatures, and then they turn into these godlike beings of light. Yeah, so it turns out the mutants in Doctor Who, the mutants, aren't mutants. What? Yeah. So it turns out that means then that the Marshal's plan didn't actually affect them whatsoever, at least not at the moment. They do say that they were going to send missiles or turn the planet inside out, so so the atmosphere is toxic to these people, but it's perfectly fine for humans. So, and yeah, you can see there's a lot of going on. And there's just way too much plot. If you could take out some of the subplots, I think the story would have been a lot better. And there's just so many characters as well. You've got the Doctor and Joe. You've got these two soldier characters who basically are like main characters. You get the character that wants independence. You've got the character then who used to want humans to stick around, but then he gets betrayed by the Marshal after he kills his son and attempts to kill him, and basically thinks that he's a mutant. Also, there's this whole thing where they believe that mutants are like a disease, and so it turns out that like the humans basically execute any of these Solos people who even have a hint of mutation. Which goes into racial prejudices and all that big theme. So yeah, a lot going on. I can't really describe it much. The problem with it is that there's so much going on. It all just kind of blends in your memory when you try to remember it. It's kind of like Iron Man 2. Not a bad story, not a bad film, Iron Man 2, and not a bad story, The Mutants. But it's just overwhelming on just how much plot and stuff. However, one thing I will say about this story, which a lot of people don't talk a lot, is the actual look of the story. This story is gorgeous to look at. Christopher Barry is one of Doctor Who's best directors, and he clearly had a fun with this. The setting on the spaceship, design-wise, looks really cool. It's one of the more... It's probably the first time that Doctor Who had like a traditional ship. A lot of stories after this, especially in the 80s, when you have an episode that takes place on a ship, it will look like this, where it's like white corridors with like red lining, and it's got that really funky, blocky text, which has been used in a few Doctor Who stories. I can't remember if it was used previous to this, but it's a font that pops up in Doctor Who a lot. So surprisingly. We also get scenes in the caves, and they're actually shot in caves, and there's this brilliant lighting effect where they have red on one side and green on the other, and like a normal white light in the front, which makes the scenery look gorgeous. So, and you got some great landscapes of the planet on the surface, and you get like a really great set, like a small village. It looks way too small to be a village. It's literally like one house and a well, but it still looks really cool. I really love the mist that they use at this particular scene. And also as well, Christopher Barry's directing is also fantastic. There's a lot of long shots where shots that last long, not long shots, but where the camera like moves around through like people and characters and stuff. There's a great moment where Joe Grant and 3 of the other characters are basically sentenced to death, and the camera goes from behind their heads into a close-up of the marshal, zooms back out to see his guards getting ready to shoot. And yeah, there's a lot of great moving camera moments. One of my favourites is when one of the guards that are actually helping the doctor dies, his friend, it has a close-up on the friend's face, and the camera kind of like pans around him, sort of like that, and it looks really stunning. If it wasn't for the fact that the plot is way oversaturated, you could really... This would have been a great story to introduce maybe newer fans into it. It feels much more acceptable for a modern viewing audience with, like I said, with the moving camera and stuff. It just feels more modern than most Doctor Who around about this time. Just a shame the the story is all over the place. So yeah, I think I've made my point extremely clear. So that's the Mutants. I personally really enjoyed it. I had a lot of blast watching this. 6 parts long. I don't really recommend it. It might be a good one to start off with, but if you're looking for like the best of the 3rd Doctor era, you're not going to get it here. So that's the Mutants. So join me next time where we have another Atlantis, making it the 3rd known Atlantis in Doctor Who. Unit return, finally, and the Doctor's old enemy returns in the Time Monster. I'll see you then on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!